The year is 1888. The city, Whitechapel. The crime, cold-blooded murder. The real question is, who's the criminal? What kind of man would kill 5 women with such finesse that even 136 years later, no one's been able to put a name to his mysterious identity? They call him Jack the Ripper, and today we're taking a deep dive into his reign of terror in 1800s England. Let's talk about the first confirmed victim of Jack the Ripper. Mary Ann Nichols. Now, Mary wasn't exactly living the high life. A 43-year-old widow forced into prostitution, her body was found in the early hours of August 31, 1888 in a gruesome state. The details are enough to turn your stomach. Her throat was slashed, her abdomen ripped open with surgical precision. Now, some suggest that it was simply a drunken brawl gone wrong, and in any other case, people would have believed that theory. There was a witness. A passerby saw a man arguing with Mary just before the whole thing went down, but decided not to intervene. Her body was found only half an hour after her death, which means the Ripper could have been lurking in the shadows while the police investigated the crime scene. The police, well, let's just say the limited technology of the Victorian era held them back. Crime scene preservation? Not a thing back then. The investigation was a mess from the start, and the worst, this brutal murder was just the first of many. Over the next few months, Whitechapel would become a hunting ground for the mysterious Jack the Ripper. But here's the thing, Mary's murder, though horrific, lacked the signature Ripper mutilations that would come to define his future cases. Makes you wonder, was this the Ripper just warming up? Or maybe there was another maniac on the loose that fateful night, someone lucky enough to never get caught. Annie Chapman was the unfortunate woman who became Jack the Ripper's confirmed second victim. Just a week after Mary Ann Nichols met her horrific end on September 8, 1888, Annie was found in a Whitechapel backyard. Similar to Mary, Annie was a down-on-her-luck prostitute, but this time the Ripper didn't just slash her throat. We're talking surgical precision. Annie's abdomen was completely ripped open, her organs removed with a disturbing level of anatomical knowledge. The precision made one thing clear: this was more than just a botched robbery. This was the work of an educated, calculating man. One creepy detail: a witness saw Annie talking to a dark-haired man just before her demise. Here's the thing though, unlike Mary's murder, there wasn't much blood at the scene. Did the Ripper learn from his messy first kill, or did he just have more time to clean up this time around? With Annie Chapman's murder publicized, the press went wild, dubbing the killer Leather Apron, a name that thankfully didn't stick. The police were even more clueless than before. On September 27, 1888, the Central News Agency received a blood-chilling letter. Scrawled in red ink, it taunted police and promised more grisly crimes. Here's what the concerning letter read. "Dear boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about Leather Apron gave me real fits. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You'll soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Haha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name. P.S. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands. Curse it. No luck yet. They say I'm a doctor now. Haha. At first, the police dismissed the letter as a cruel hoax, probably the work of an attention-seeking journalist. However, the murders that followed suggested that the letter may have been from the killer. Still, there's no evidence to confirm that fact. It could still be a cruel prank that went too far. Only 3 days after the letter, on the morning of September 30th, 1888, Elizabeth's body was discovered in a bloody heap. The cause of death was a single deep throat slash. Unlike Annie, there were no signs of the Ripper's usual abdominal mutilations. This difference opened doors for tons of theories. Was this a mercy killing? Did the Ripper get spooked and flee before he could finish his precise murder? Some believe this was the work of a copycat killer, while others believe Jack simply changed his tactics. Then there's perhaps the most terrifying possibility. Was this just a warm-up for a double feature? That's right, only 45 minutes later, the mutilated remains of Catherine Eddowes were found in Mitre Square. Catherine's throat was slashed, her face mutilated, and part of her ear was severed. A chilling detail foreshadowed in the infamous Dear Boss letter. Was it actually sent by Jack the Ripper, or simply a lucky guess? At this point, the police were under immense pressure, and theories about the Ripper's identity were making the public more restless every day. In fact, some members of the police even resigned simply due to public influence. The strange thing about Catherine Eddowes' murder was that her kidney was missing. This wasn't true for any of Jack's previous victims. Before anyone could answer any of these chilling questions, a fifth body was found: Mary Kelly. Mary Jane's body was savagely mutilated, far worse than any of the previous Ripper murders. This brutality led some to believe the Ripper was getting bold, thinking he would never get caught. Her body was the most gruesome of all, as it has been virtually skinned down. Unlike the other victims, Mary Jane's body was almost unrecognizable. Plus, there were no clear witnesses to Mary Jane's demise. Mary Jane's murder is often considered the last confirmed Ripper attack. There were other murders around that time, but none that definitively matched the Ripper's MO. That's why these 5 confirmed victims are known as the canonical 5, but some believe that the real number may be far higher. The strangest thing about this serial killer was that he was actually seen by many passers-by right before or after the murders, but never caught. That may be because many of the eyewitnesses are wildly inconsistent. It makes pinning down a single accurate description nearly impossible. That's due to a few reasons. Firstly, most of the Ripper murders occurred in dark, secluded corners of Whitechapel. Witnesses were often scared and in shock, and they only caught glimpses of the suspect in poor lighting. Even when there were multiple witnesses, their descriptions varied wildly. Some said he was tall, others short. Some said he had a dark complexion, others fair. He's seen in different attire, carrying various items, making it hard to pin down a concrete appearance. Still, investigators were able to pinpoint certain characteristics. For instance, most witnesses placed Jack in his 30s or early 40s. He was described as being of medium build. Some mention him looking stocky or sturdy, but not overly muscular. His height was anywhere from 5'5" to 5'9". Witnesses described a dark overcoat, a peaked cap, and even a sailor's hat. Some mentioned him carrying a dark bag, possibly to hide his surgical tools. Some also said that he had a mustache. The Scotland Yard's Violent Crime Command Team has characterized the Ripper as perfectly sane, frighteningly normal, and yet capable of extraordinary cruelty. While they have never been able to identify who Jack the Ripper really was, the police were able to come up with some really compelling suspects. Beyond the original 3, the public also suspected many other men of these horrific crimes. Montague John Druitt, born in Dorset in 1857, was a man with a lot on his plate. He was a barrister, but also worked as a teacher on the side to make ends meet. In 1887, he was let go from his teaching job and ended up drowning himself in the River Thames in 1888. Some people think he might have been let go from his job for being homosexual, leading to his suicide. However, research revealed that mental health issues actually ran in his family. He was also described as sexually insane by his family members. His death, occurring shortly after the final canonical murder, led Assistant Chief Constable Sir Melville Macnagan to consider him a possible suspect. However, Macnagan's contributions to the Ripper case were already unreliable. Plus, Druitt was in Dorset playing cricket the day after the first canonical murder, making it hard to place him at the crime scene. Most experts agree the killer was a Whitechapel local, while Druitt lived a good distance away in Kent. Michael Ostrog was a Russian conman and thief who used tons of aliases and even claimed to be a former surgeon in the Russian Navy. Ostrog became a suspect only after the canonical 5 murders were committed, but there was still no proof that he was into anything worse than scamming people and the occasional theft. Author Philip Sugden dug up prison records that showed Ostrog was actually in prison in France at the time of the murders. Jacob Eisenschmidt was a Swiss butcher living in Milford Road. He had a history of severe depression, psychiatric problems, and violent attacks on women in Whitechapel. Past incidents had even landed him in psychiatric hospitals. On September 11, 1888, 2 doctors, concerned by his odd behavior, reported him to the police as a potential Ripper suspect. His own wife painted a pretty disturbing picture: violent outbursts, erratic behavior, and constant possession of large knives, even when it was unnecessary for his work. She admitted fearing for her life after at least one specific threat. She also mentioned that he abruptly left home 2 months prior, only returning a few times. Eisenschmidt was arrested on the 13th of September. A psychiatric evaluation declared him dangerously insane, and he was admitted to a mental hospital. However, the horrific double-event murders of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes happened on September 30th, clearing him of any connection with the Ripper deaths. Aaron Kosminski was a Polish Jew admitted to Colney Hatch Lunatic Asylum in 1891. He was named as a suspect by Sir Melville Macnagan and former Chief Inspector Donald Swanson. His appearance matched alleged eyewitness identification. People were also suspicious that the killer was a low-class Polish Jew near Whitechapel. Anderson seemed convinced they'd found their man, but Kosminski was never prosecuted. His asylum records describe him as harmless, with auditory hallucinations and paranoia. An FBI profiler suggested a killer like the Ripper would have boasted about the murders, but Kosminski never did. In 2014, DNA analysis linked Kosminski to a shawl that reportedly belonged to victim Catherine Eddowes. However, experts dismissed this since there's no proof the shawl actually belonged to her. To this day, Aaron is considered the likeliest suspect. Over 130 years have passed, and the name Jack the Ripper still sends shivers down spines. Some even consider him the most elusive and gruesome serial killer in the world. So, who do you think Jack the Ripper is? Was it a troubled doctor seeking a wicked form of release, or a deranged butcher with anger issues? Or were these murders the work of multiple twisted individuals? Let us know your suspects in the comments below. Thank you for watching.